you set your expectations high, but be prepared to be let down and be okay with that. Just understand that people are flawed, and then don't give any more time to those said people, and move on with your life.
This sounds like a conversation you may have had with yourself once or twice.
Many hours of therapy. That was a very expensive therapy.
Oh, yes.
I'm Josh Sigman.
And I'm Brynn Rouse.
I'm a mortgage guy with a passion for money, business, and elevating my game. Brynn is my co-host. She's my friend and marketing director for my mortgage team.
That's right. I'm a marketing girl, a mama of 3, and wife of 1. And like Josh, elevating life, business, and relationships, well, it's my jam.
This season's topic, elevate your game.
What do you want?
Do you want to push personal limits, find joy, be more present?
Be a better parent, have a sexier marriage, make more money, save more money, start your own business, develop a hobby, or strengthen important relationships?
Impact the world, be a better boss, or create a stronger business? Then you are ready to elevate.
And this is the place to do it.
Are you ready? Sigman Sense Season 3, elevate your game. Well, hello, everybody. Bald bull here. Bald face, anyways.
I know, but like, is it weird that I didn't even flinch?
I don't know if that's good or bad.
I don't either.
Chrissy says my face is back. I said I don't like my face.
Maybe because you have a little bit of like scruff left. Like most people, when they have facial hair and it goes away, it's very
That's because you've known me for most of my career with you without facial hair.
Maybe. But I also married my husband without facial hair, and if he shaves his face now, I'm like, I don't know who you are. You're going to have to leave the house because you're a stranger.
I don't know. Strange is sometimes fun.
Very, very weird. It's very weird.
If
like,
you're not married, for the record. If you're not married.
I didn't even flinch when you walked in.
Well, what are we talking about today, Brynn?
Reading.
Oh, reading. It's really more about the overall picture, right? It's like how to elevate your game and retention of knowledge.
Yeah.
Gaining knowledge, retention. Reading is probably the best avenue.
Yeah. So I think as business people, we're told to read, or we're assigned to read.
Yep.
And if you're not an avid reader and truly enjoy it, then it becomes very checkbox.
Yep.
And so,
or just not done. Just
or
ignored.
not done. And then that falls into a bad routine and habit because you just kind of go on autopilot. So, for those of us that I include myself in this, I don't love to read.
Really?
No.
Okay. That's an honest answer.
No, I don't love it. But
I bet most people that listened would say you have the same answer, by the way.
Yeah. Here's what's funny. When I was little, when I was a kid, all I did was read. That is it. I mean, I was such a reader. Then, I think it falls into two parts. One, if I'm going to read at this point in my life, it's some sort of business book. So that's where we have a bullet point to talk about balance of fun books versus business books or self-help books, I guess. It has to be on Audible because I truly fall asleep every time I start reading or sit down. So
you sit down in chairs? You sit down in chairs. You fall asleep in chairs?
Chairs, couches.
That's funny.
Bed. Yes.
You're old.
I fall asleep. Like if my body stops moving, I go to sleep.
Just like unplug the robot. It's like,
yes. It's I know my kids make fun of me all the time. They're like, oh, she's in her spot. She's going to go to sleep. So that makes it hard, which then, I love Audible. I really do love Audible, but also you have to be careful that you're not thinking about other things while the book is playing because then it's pointless because you haven't listened to anything.
What's funny is I think there's some studies that it's not pointless. Like
really?
Having that in the background, you'll pick up on certain things.
Well, that's true. That's true. But I would like to think I would be a little bit more. You certainly could
get more out of it.
Yeah, if I was being.
I think that's exactly what this is about, right? So the whole series has been about elevating your game. And so this is certainly an area. I'll tell my story about, I am a reader. I have a goal every year now this is my third year of reading 52 books a year. For some people listening, that's not enough. And for some people, you're like, holy shit, I haven't done that since I was in school. Like, I don't even think you read 52 books in elementary, middle, and high school.
No.
I doubt that.
Not unless it's on your own and you want to read. Right. But yeah, I think in high school, there's like 3 books, like 3 main books that you're forced to read.
Forced to. That's fun.
Forced
Reading is
to
fun
read.
for all you kids.
Forced
So
to read.
so my story is really easy. So my dad I was definitely one of those kids that was pushing back on reading. Like I did not like it because I'm a very much an active person. I was trying to destroy something or climb something when I was middle school. And I remember that my dad was saying, "Hey, dude, like you got to read. You got to read every single day." And I was like, "What? Like you have the got to?" And I'm like, "I'll be fucking damned. Like I don't got to do anything, right?"
Exactly.
No, I would never say that's my dad because I would have gotten a firm, kick in the butt. But he said, "Look, Josh, let me give you a hint to life." And this is one of his like little old man gems that I've remembered for now every bit of 30 years. And he said, look, you can live a lifetime yourself and you can make a lot of your own mistakes and you'll learn from those mistakes, or you can live thousands of lifetimes in your lifetime by reading other people's stories and learning from their mistakes and learning from what works for them. And that always just really resonated with me because it's so true. I love the idea of like pave the way and figure it out on your own. But the truth of the matter is like it's easier to follow the snowplow than to be the snowplow.
Yeah.
It just is. And so for me, the reading piece has been just an accelerant would be a great way to say it. Like if you put gasoline on a fire, it's an accelerant. If you were to, another way to say that would be it's just the plus one, right?
Yeah.
Like reading in business is just a plus one. And so finding a little bit of time, I think it really starts with routines, right? If you were to say, like, how do I do it now? I think a big piece of why people don't read is that they don't have time, just like everything else.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone's first, instinctive little knee-jerk reaction is, I don't have time for that. I don't have time to work out. I don't have time to, I've got kids. I don't have time. I'm working 80 hours a week. I don't have time. And so that's always the knee-jerk. And so you got to find the time and make that a priority, I really think. So
yes,
it's the daily routines, right?
Yes. And so for me, the easiest place to find that time to read is in the car,
which is the Audible piece.
So
Audible, for if you don't know what it is by now, it's a Amazon owned company, and basically it reads the book to you, like the author in some cases reads it to you.
Yes, and that's so important to me that the author reads. It's so important. But and it's a subscription. You pay a certain amount a month, and then you get credits. You get 1 credit a month. By the way, the max is 6 that you can have before you stop getting credits. I know that because
you're not reading enough.
Because
your consumption of knowledge.
I need to increase my consumption. So in the car, obviously, and then the other place that I'm working on, and it's really a hard habit to break, is while I am doing laundry, while I am cleaning up the kitchen, while I'm doing tasks that are mindless. Typically, when I look up, it's dead silent. I'm just folding the laundry in silence. Yep. So, and there's probably some health to that. Probably something good that comes from that. But
it's immediate gratification. You have a stack of crap, and
I mean the quietness, like just
the meditation piece.
Just having it be quiet. But incorporating it, turning on a podcast or turning on an Audible book during those times, I think is really good. And I'm working on it. Like I said, it's a habit. Most of the time I'm halfway through and I'm like, oh, I need to, I need to get my book out or whatever. So incorporating it into your daily routines. Yeah, but then again, there's some people that really like paper, they really want the paper.
One of my favorite things to do is every vacation I go on, I always have a paperback that I can throw in my knapsack with me when I go on the plane or go sit at. It's literally like
your knapsack.
Is that backpack, knapsack? Like, am I that old? What's the?
I don't know.
I don't have
know what generation.
I don't have a man purse. Let me just be really clear about that. So, well, my knapsack has my.
Your knapsack,
it's also known as a go bag for me.
A go bag for us is full of diabetic supplies, but okay.
Well, my go bag is full of like guns, ammo, money, IDs, like ready to leave at any time. But whatever, that's a different episode. So
all right, so Josh's knapsack, go on vacation.
Right. So in my knapsack, my go bag, my lunchbox, whatever, I always have a paper. Don't laugh and throw up your coffee. But I have a paperback and I love it. I love like the sit down and make sure you read that one book on the beach or one book.
I take one every time.
And you never read it. It makes you feel good when you're packing it though.
It really does.
Guys, like the purpose of books is not as paperweights. It's really funny how many books I send out as gifts or give to, clients or referring partners as gifts. and especially like daily devotionals or leadership Bibles or things like that. And I'll be coaching people and I'm like, hey, did you read today? They're like, no, but I have the book. I'm like, that's not the point. The point is not for it to be on the desk. It's to read the book.
It's the perfect height that I needed my plant to be.
That's
so
right.
I put my
That's
plant
right.
on it.
So, it's funny. We've been talking for 10 minutes and we haven't really talked about much, but I want you guys to hear more than it's just about reading, right? I think that you're either growing or you're dying, and you're either feeding your brain and you're moving the needle in that way. No different than a business. Your business is either growing or it's dying. Like there is no perfectly level, perfect business that has exact revenue every single month with exact expenses every month that can sustain that without, because clients die, referring partners die, new things are invented, new software is created by other competing companies. So the whole point is that you've always had to be growing. And so the way that you grow is probably 2 or 3-fold. That's why it's not just about reading, right? I think reading is an obvious one because what I've always found is that people that read are always seeking for other ways to improve, period. They're looking for ways to improve their businesses or personally. I think that a secondary piece of this is really coaching. Why? Because I think people that actually believe that they're broken are willing to work on it and are seeking accountability in that area go further, period, than people that have it all figured out. Like all lines lead to them and they're the top of the freaking totem pole. And so I think that coaching would be another piece. Mentorship is different than coaching, right? Coaching is truly about accountability. Coaching is about, hey, boss, I want to get here. How do I get there? And they tell you what to do. And then you turn in homework. That's what coaching looks like. The prescription, if you will, versus mentorship is modeling after somebody that has, in appearances usually, has achieved more in the areas that you want to achieve in, right? So think about the friendly old neighbor next door that just took a personal interest in you growing up and like gave you life advice. Sometimes we don't need to listen to our parents' advice, even though it's good advice, but all of a sudden your neighbor says the exact same thing, that mentor, and, they can hear. And all of a sudden your ears are wide open. And so between reading, mentorship, and coaching, those are probably the 3 primary areas for me over my career that have really helped me the most progress and grow, right?
Yeah. So, and so I think too, when we say reading, we're not just saying reading either. We're saying consumption of knowledge. That's right. And so, I
don't care if it's a podcast. Right, I don't care if it's like YouTube Shorts. I don't care what it is.
Yeah, YouTube, podcasts, TED Talks. The other thing that I feel like is a real
TED Talks is
benefit,
excellent, by the way.
Yes.
Old school newspapers, lost art.
Newspaper. I don't even know where you get one of those.
It's on the subscription on your phone.
Main. Oh, there's an app for that?
Yes. You can subscribe to all of the big publications.
Usually I just want the Sunday ones because they have all
the comics?
Great... No.
The Sunday funnies?
The ads.
Oh, you want the ads. Even better. Marketing.
Yes.
Okay, keep going.
Talk about like improving your spelling and your vocabulary.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
like that is a huge benefit of reading. Mm-hmm. Weston's a big time reader. His vocabulary is massive.
Yep.
And he can spell.
Yep.
Not that you can tell that it's spelled right because his handwriting is atrocious, but
well, I love that you just said that. Not just and this is why this all benefits you long term in business, right? Like if you're trying to elevate yourself in business or in life in general, 2 big skills that are often like overlooked, like huge skills. Is reading, writing, but also the art of communication. Mm-hmm. So if you can't communicate your thoughts effectively or in a meaningful way to get the point across, you're just not going to go as far in life, period.
Man,
so I'll give you a great example. There's many wonderful people that have applied for a job with me. And many of those people couldn't put together a fucking email. Like you literally read it and it's written in the garbage way that children text each other these days, where they're incomplete sentences. There is no punctuation. Or they're run-on sentences, or there's a lack of salutation, or there's a lack of greeting or a call to action. There's just it's really poor communication in general.
Right.
And so one of the things that you just brought up is spot on. Grammar. In general, grammar and spelling is super important to get what you want in life. So don't just overlook it as, I don't really want to work on self-help books. Okay, then read garbage, but read garbage that's written well, because at least books are edited.
Right.
And so the editor's job is to make sure that there's proper grammar and punctuation. And it could be a crazy, sex book for all I care. You know, what's
50 Shades of Grey.
I read all of them.
All of them.
All 3 of them.
I did read all of those.
Yep. Oh, good.
And then I didn't listen to them either.
I read them all because I wanted to understand what was inside a woman's mind. Quite fascinating, man.
I mean,
quite fascinating.
Christian Grey. I mean, come on.
Don't give a shit about Christian Grey. Except I do want to fly helicopters. Did I tell you about that?
No.
I just signed up for my first lesson.
That's super exciting. You can take me on a ride. It's on my bucket list. I've never been on a helicopter.
Well, my wife's not going to get on the helicopter, so I'll take you.
Okay.
So let's go with the reading and the disciplines that have to come around it. So I really do think that it starts with, don't say I'm going to be a better reader. Just like any goal in life, it just doesn't work. Just say, I'm going to be better at that. It is how and some measurement and by when, right? Mm-hmm. So that's why I like the goal for me of a book a week. But it could be a book a month. Would be a huge step for most anyone in the human race. But a book a quarter could be a very, bite-sized goal. One book every 90 days is nothing. And then when you look at it, you can pick an average book. An average book, if you're going to read a paperback, is about 200, 250, 300 pages, somewhere in that range, 200 to 300 pages. Start there. So if you have just an easy breakdown, 300 pages in 30 days is 10 pages a day. So 300 pages in 3 months is 3 pages a day, 4 pages a day. It's not that hard. So it's just not. You could actually maybe get through all 3 pages before you fall asleep. Who fucking knows, right?
I don't know.
But
I don't know.
But my point is,
question too. Yeah. My sister-in-law reads and reads and reads. Like she reads so much that she's like, I have.
You know what, Carrie?
Yes,
yeah,
I have to like shut it down for a minute because I could read until whatever it starts getting in the way of stuff. But and she reads really fast, and she talks about this like she reads down the middle of the page, and I'm like, I don't understand that. I can't get around. I have to read every word. But I feel like you have said something about that too.
Speed reading, yeah.
Just like reading. Do you read down the middle of the page?
I don't even think I focus. I've never thought about the middle of the page as my best answer. I can definitely speed read. So I tend to speed read through garbage books, which I actually appreciate sometimes. Like I like disconnecting, but I do slow down and focus on words when it's something that's a very important subject to me that I really want to digest, right?
So we're talking about just getting rid of all of the if and then like all of those words.
Well, I mean, there's some cool studies, right? Like if you have if you know the first letter and last letter of any word, you don't actually have to read every letter in the word.
Right. It is.
Your mind will fill in the gaps with reps, right? So, A and D is and, right? You don't have to think about that. O and N with 5 letters. What starts with O, ends with N, and is 5 letters long?
I have no idea. Can we write it?
What do you think? What starts with O, ends with N, is 5 letters long?
I don't know. Owner?
Wow.
Oh wait, that ends with an R.
If you saw a piece of paper, it'd be easy.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Here, let me write. I'm gonna write this down. Let's
write
just do a little
down.
test. See if this works for you. Now, there's got to be.
Has to be a vowel.
Well, it's also you have to know what the letters are. There you go.
Ocean, yeah.
Real easy.
But you said it. Oh yeah. Okay.
Oh, it starts with an O, ends with an N, 5 letters long.
Oh, okay. I mean, you didn't spell it right here. Okay.
I did that intentionally. That's the point. So you literally, if you you didn't spell it right. No, that's the point. But there's lots of studies around that. It's actually you can have for fun. You can have your friend write out an entire sentence, have the correct letters in the word out of order, start with the right letter, end with the right letter, and you can read it.
You can read it, yeah,
as fast as you can read any book. And so it's one of those things that the more you read, because you're used to seeing the words, right? It's not like a first grader learning the word, but you see the word 1,000 times. You don't have to read the whole freaking word to get the word. But going back to the whole point of this, I do think that having a specific measurable goal to create a routine and habit, to say I did it or I didn't, and then that's the first step. So I'm gonna read a book a quarter. Cool. How am I gonna do that? Specifically, I'm gonna read 3 pages a day on a 300-page book. That would be a first step. A second step to me is if you suck at reading or you just don't enjoy it, then start with a subject that you like. Like don't start with reading a digest. Don't start with reading the encyclopedia.
Don't start with the 21 laws of leadership.
Right. Don't start with like real, unless you're super interested in leadership right now.
By the way, that was a reference to how Josh killed the book club.
Oh, good. Well, the guys are still reading. They read the damn book.
We started the book club with Raving Fans, which is like a super simple read. In month 2, Josh picks the 21 Laws of Leadership, which literally looks like an encyclopedia.
Yeah, I was a much younger man then. I didn't understand how it all works. But yeah. So let's keep working through this though. So step 1 is like choose pick a book that you're going to read in a period of time, break it down to a daily routine, schedule that time. It doesn't take but 10 minutes a day to read 3 pages. It just doesn't. 10 pages is 3 pages, 10 pages, 10 minutes is pretty easy. Pick a subject that you're interested in.
I have really found that I love autobiographies and biographies.
Good.
Love them.
Yeah. So who's somebody that's super fascinating to you right now that you'd like to learn more about?
I can't think off the top of my head, but
okay. Well, I'm going through this for real. Think about that. I want to just give an example.
Well, I have some in my some in my queue.
Well, why you look that up? So outside of that, people that are reading or in that area, ask for references for sure. Get referrals to a book. I think it's really interesting. Like I love an Audible that you can actually share. Like when you're done reading a book, if you really like it, you can share that with a friend. That's also interested in the same thing. By the way, it's a super cheap gift that's impactful to a lot of people. If you get into reading, one thing I've always found is that higher net worth people definitely read, period. And if you're trying to grow your business or the group of people that you hang out with, that's a great way to kind of test the waters. Hey, Chris, I was thinking about you. Just finished this book. I'm going to share this Audible link with you. It costs you $15, right? Well, now you've demonstrated that you care about their business and you care about them and you're trying to help them. If they read it, they enjoy it. Now you've got something to talk about your next business meeting, right? So I think that's super important. What did you come up with?
Okay, so I have some in here that. So the Enneagram was a subject that.
But you said autobiographies.
Not what I know, but we're talking about.
Start with autobiography. I'm curious about somebody that you're interested in.
Oh well, okay. So Elon Musk, I definitely do want to read his. We talked about that. And
you read that girl that was all over social media.
I read her.
Wash your face. What's her name?
Rachel Hollis's books. I did read hers. I did read Will Smith. I did read Matthew McConaughey. Both excellent books. Yeah,
even though Will lost his damn mind,
he lost his mind. It's still a great book. Hillary Burton's book was great. Mina Suvari. I've heard her book is incredible. She was, do you know who Mina Suvari is?
Nope.
She was in American Beauty. Do you remember that movie?
Yeah.
With Kevin Spacey?
Yep.
So
was she the young girl?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, the young blonde. Yeah. So she, apparently her book, my mom told me to read her book, talks a lot about just her experience with him and.
Oh, after all of his sexual assault stuff.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I have one in my queue called The No Asshole Rule. I should probably read that.
I read that book.
Oh, good.
Also good. Hey, you should read a book. It's called Unfuck Yourself.
Yes, I've heard. I did read. I read a part of Dave Hollis's book. It didn't totally grab me. Laura Cleary's book was great. Jessica Simpson's book was fantastic.
If you listen to this, most of these are about women because she's a woman, and I'm not interested in half those books. But I've read some of them. I'm interested in what my team is interested in, right? But I think that's the point, right? You find people that are fascinating. I also think that there's a big piece here, especially if you're thinking about a business side of things. Getting the story behind and looking for why certain people are successful, I think is super, super smart and interesting. There are certainly some common threads. Interesting enough, a lot of the common threads are some level of pain in childhood, some sort of psychological damage, brought up in the wrong side of the tracks, beat up by their parents, left early, told they're no good. A lot of those people have chips on their shoulders. I love that. I love that from a standpoint of if you can find a chip to motivate you, great. Don't you told me I can't do it? Excellent. Chrissy told me the going back to helicopters, right? You know why I'm a fly helicopter?
Why not?
Because she told me I can't. I'm like, great choice. I'm going to go ahead and fly helicopters.
I've been practicing reverse psychology on my children quite a lot lately.
Yeah, like don't tell me I can't do it. Like I'm for sure going to do it.
We are in a space right now that it's like I have never felt more unheard in my life when it comes to my family. And I'm like, I'm just going to start saying the exact opposite of what I would prefer that they do. Like, stupid stuff. We were going to go see Maverick. And so I told Weston, hey, while you and Dad are driving out to the ranch later, you should watch Top Gun because we're going to go see Maverick tomorrow. And he looked at me like, I'm just going to say yes. And you should know that is absolutely not going to happen. And so I called him out. I'm like, there's not a chance in hell you're going to do that. Are you? And he's like, probably not. I said, you know what? You should only watch things that are going to turn your brain to total mush, especially that anime nerdy crap. You don't come home until you have watched every episode. Every single episode. That's what I want. I want you to be worthless. I want you to be unsuccessful. His brain, he looked at me, he's like, are you stroking out? I don't know what's happening here. I'm like,
well, be careful what you wish for.
Right.
I test that idea on somebody else's kids.
So yeah,
we digress.
Let's do some reverse psychology.
Yeah.
Yes, I think it would be awesome if you'd be a helicopter pilot. You'd be like, meh.
Yeah. Well, because you don't have a chip, it's like, oh, that's easy. Okay. But by the way, the whole reason, I think this goes right along with what we're talking about here. Like the whole reason I want to learn how to fly a helicopter is to learn something new.
Yeah.
Like literally, that's all it is. It's like I've got a lot of things in my life that are very, very boring, which is a great place to be.
What about planes? You don't want to start with planes?
My dad flew planes my entire life, and I've flown planes before. But have you
mastered it?
No, I haven't mastered it, but it just doesn't interest me as much for whatever reason. And also the cost of entry is a lot less on a helicopter than a plane. And I have property right by my house I could put a helicopter on that I could fly to my ranch.
We've needed one of those.
So literally if I decide to go through with it.
Cue the helicopters.
Right. So yeah, and then never mind. I'll tell you what, some of my friends are like, let's do this. Like, definitely do this. We're going to have a lot of fun. Some of my friends are like, I will never get in a helicopter with you ever, Josh.
Oh, I will get in the helicopter with you.
For sure. So, but going back to this whole book thing. So, you get past the picking out a subject matter that you really like. Let's just say that you see it through. Like, and by the way, this is one of the keys, I think, to any goal in general. Is like, just see it through the end once. Like if you for example, the helicopter lessons. I don't know if I'm gonna get vertigo or sick. Like some people get, motion sickness. I might like take my first 2 or 3 helicopter lessons and be like, screw this, I'm puking every day.
Yeah.
And I'll stop. But I'll go through the first couple lessons, right? Like I've already committed mentally to what I'm for sure gonna do. Mm-hmm. So reading a book is a great example of like, if you say you're gonna read a book, just read the fucking book from beginning to end. Like don't quit on that. It's just like hitting snooze over and over again. Like
I know, and you got to get past that first.
You got to get past the first one, yeah, or just get into it.
I don't like the first part of any book. I'm like, can we just get to I don't want the meat. I don't want all this crap in the beginning. Like, can we start in chapter 2?
I don't think that's how books work.
I know, which is a real problem.
You start at the very beginning. It's a very good place to start. There's a song about that, right?
I do. But it's just like, oh my God, blah, 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 blah. Like, let's just get to the meat.
That's really funny. I don't think that you're ever calm when you start reading. That might be their problem.
Yeah.
Maybe that's a big thing is like setting the space to do it. Like I literally think that there's nothing better than sitting on a beach with my feet up, drinking a beer, reading a book. Like
and who's
to me,
watching the children not drown in the ocean?
I glance up over the top of my book.
That's a terrible answer.
It's just the truth.
It's okay.
I'll go swim with them a lot. I'll play football with them a lot, and then when I'm tired,
while you're reading is when accidents happen. Well,
okay, helicopter mom.
I'm
hey, helicopter
stopping
mom.
Children from drowning is not being a helicopter mom.
Do you let your kids outside in the street? Yes, they run up and down the damn street. When are they going to be hit by a car? Like you can't pick that.
I live in a cul-de-sac,
and there's still cars in those damn cul-de-sacs, right? And they run down the street to their friends' houses. Like we're not going to argue about this. So.
The ocean is a different story. I feel like
you're afraid of sharks.
I'm not afraid of sharks. I've almost drowned twice in my life.
I've almost drowned 3 times. I got you beat.
Oh my God, you're such a one-upper.
I am a one-upper.
It's when accidents happen.
when you're not looking.
Is when you're not
Where are your kids right now?
Well, they're all sleeping.
I'm sure they are. That's exactly what they're doing right now. It's 10:30. They're for sure sleeping.
They are
What they're not
sleeping.
doing is they're not playing around with like making fires in the backyard like boys do.
No, they're not doing that.
Okay.
I promise.
I'm gonna give them some matches for Christmas.
They're probably.
I'm gonna give them a flint and a steel.
That's
what they should
If
be
anything,
doing.
they're probably hacking into some server. That's a little more accurate.
we talked about the guy that I said you should be watching last time, whatever his name is, from Canada. He really talks about this.
I have started listening to him.
He talks about like let your kids roam and get in trouble and get hurt early because the earlier you do that, the more developed they're going to be. Anyways, it's the truth. I literally believe that. There's a bunch of freaking wimps in the world now.
Yes, I do agree with
Like
that.
emasculated
Because
boys
because mothers won't let them drown in the ocean.
they got to get hurt every once in a while and learn that they can deal with it. It's the truth. I didn't send out the ocean after, but before they know how to swim.
Being stung by a jellyfish,
Okay.
drowning in the ocean.
Don't say that. I don't want any bad juju over here.
Then you should probably
I
not
also
read
am married.
on the.
She doesn't read. So we're fine.
And there we have it. That's the answer I was looking for.
Somebody's watching the kids. It'll be fine. Safety in numbers too. So going back to this, right? So let's get back past the, just see it through the end. I was giving my daughter some instructions because I think this is just really good learning lessons, right? Reverse psychology actually worked too. So she said that she's going to run a mile every day as part of her workout this summer, right? Because she wants to make the next league or whatever she's doing for volleyball. She actually wants to make the varsity, hopefully, as a sophomore, which is going to be very challenging for her. And it's already like the 15th, 18th day of summer. And I was talking to her 2 days ago, and she hadn't run a mile yet. And she's like, I woke up late. We had this thing going on. It's like, do you think that I want to work out every morning? She's like, no. I said, there's a lot of people that tell me what they're going to do. One day, someday they're going to do. Like, I'll get better. And then they don't do shit. I said, so here's an idea. Get used to being like that, and you'll be like that in every aspect of your life for the rest of your life. Or if you tell me you're going to, I don't care if you want to run a mile or not. Like, just don't tell me you're going to run a fucking mile and not run a mile. If you say you're going to do it, just see it through.
Do it. It's
just
the worst character to develop. Best character. Wait, what am I trying to say?
God. Let me finish the sentence.
Worst character trait to develop is to be someone who doesn't do anything they say they're going to do and have a mark on your head as that person.
Yep. So the good news was she did get up and she did go run a mile yesterday. I was like, oh, thank God. So, and actually when I left this morning, she was already at the gym. So presumably she's running the mile. My point is like that's how you start to read if you're not a reader. That's how you start to work on knowledge. Like you decide what you want and you see it through. And I hope that resonates with some of you guys listening, that you've said you're next year I'm going to do this, or someday I'm going to learn a language, or maybe one day I'll start my own business, or, someday I'll whatever. And you've had the same damn conversation 30 times with yourself and you just never fucking do it. And it's like, okay, that's not the end of the world. Just decide that you really don't want to do it. Like we had, a realtor in coaching quit. Why? Because I called her on her bullshit and I said, you know what, you're just going to be like this forever because you're not willing to do the work. Like, don't tell me you want to grow your business and never prospect ever. Like, just don't tell me that.
Yeah.
So just say, I'm comfortable where I'm at, and that's okay. That is totally
because the goal
okay.
could be, hey, I need you to help me maintain where I'm at. And I think
the goal can literally be, I want to do this job the rest of my life and do it in less hours, and make a little bit more money every year. And that's awesome for you. Like, that is totally acceptable. I'm not shaming. That is a great thing. In fact, there's probably a lot of mental peace that comes with that that I wish I had, right? But don't say that you want something that you don't claim to do, because this translates then into the second and third piece, right? Coaching and mentorship. I've found a remarkably overwhelming truth to the fact that people that have been successful are willing to share their knowledge with people that are willing to do the work. And they're willing to have the first conversation always because somebody had that first conversation with them. What I've also experienced personally and professionally is those conversations stop when they feel like they're wasting their time.
Yes.
So
100%.
There's a reason why they say when the student's ready, the teacher appears. Because when the student wants a mentor, when the student wants a coach, for sure there's one that's willing to say, yep, absolutely. I'll help you out. Now, I do think, it's very important. Be careful who the teacher is. Yes. I find that a lot of people are following idiot, like children that are giving stock picking advice on the internet as their mentorship. Like they subscribe to the bullshit that some child that's never made money ever in their life, but the market went up for about 18 months and everyone's values went up and they were just better at sharing their information to get a buck and get some exposure. And they didn't understand how to correct. And so people lost a lot more than they when they were going up because they didn't know who their teacher was, right? So if you're going to follow somebody as a mentor with money and example, make sure that person has experienced the ups and downs and done well in both, right? If you're going to ask for somebody to coach you, make sure that they have excelled in that area or for sure at least better than you, but they've got to be at least where you want to be if they're going to coach you or mentor you. And so when I think about personal trainers, a great example, I would never pay a fat person to personally coach me for personal training. But I'm trying to get that visual because people do that shit with every other area of their life. Right? Like, well, this video quality was the best, so they must be a damn expert. This kid I look up to in high school, and he's giving me a little bit of time, so this person's my mentor, right?
I think too, when they let's talk about this. So, and of course I will go to baseball because it's just the most relevant in my life right now as we raise kids. Being able to do something really, really well and then, and the ability to coach and teach someone how to do it very well are different. Very, very different. So, having conversations with coaches, especially if you're going to hire someone to do private lessons because now you're investing a pretty penny for their time. It's worth, and I've learned this over the years, and even with non-personal lesson or private lesson coaches, but having conversations with coaches about their experience, how they got into coaching, what do they love about it.
Very smart.
Leadership conversations. I mean, I had a coach that wanted to go down the leadership conversation path with me, and I'm like, I hope you're ready for this. Because if you want to open this can of worms, be very clear. Like, I'm not just going to sit here and listen. I have very strong opinions about leadership and what your job is as a leader, being the coach, and where you're saying that that's not your job. So, but having those conversations and making sure that you're like hooking up with the right person that is going to excel you're going to get your money's worth first and foremost, right? Like, your kids are going to see instantaneous results, but I also don't want my kid around a dick. Like, I want someone who's going to demonstrate what being a model citizen looks like. I want an upstanding citizen.
As a coach or mentor?
Well, I think as a
or leader. Because I think this is something to touch on here.
Yeah. Well, okay. So I think when it comes to sports, I think coaches have a huge responsibility.
Okay.
And sometimes I don't think that they accept the position, understanding the levity at which a coach, like being a coach, all that comes with being a coach. So I think as a coach, you are the leader. I think they are a leader. I think the way that they behave, the way that they conduct themselves, the way that they respond, the way that they praise, the way they criticize, all of those things absolutely falls under leadership.
Yeah, I think the primary job or responsibility of any coach is to get improvement out of you and to win. Yeah. Like, that's it. So I'm on the, what's really interesting is, like, you brought up the being a dick comment, right? So I look at that as, are you is it okay for a coach to be super direct and verbal, right?
Absolutely.
And my answer is it depends on the kid or the adult, right?
So
that's being coached.
Yes, if it's So I guess the asterisk is
are they giving that person what they need?
Right. The
to
job
go to
of
the
the coach,
level?
the job of the leader is to identify the motivator, identify
pressure, praise, or competition.
Right.
That's the three motivators: pressure, praise, competition.
And that is a job. I mean, it is. It's a lot of work.
Everyone's different. You know what's funny is in our coaching program, everyone we ask before the semester starts. Like literally, hey, what motivates you the most? Pressure, praise, or competition?
How often do you think that the person gets it right? Do you think people are really in tune with that?
I think that people that have been coached for a length of time get it right. I think that people are a new guess, but a good coach. Well, it's easy to tell. Like if you tell me your pressure, you've given me permission to be super, super strict, super, use verbal commands, use punishments, use push-ups and burpees, or literally a couple $1,000 fine because you didn't do what I said. And you will either like step up because you're good under pressure and perform better next time, or you'll crumple and be a little wimp and cry about it. In which case, that's not your fault. That's just pressure's not your thing.
Not your thing. Yeah.
So then the next time I come back, I realize that, okay, well, the results didn't improve. So that's not really the motivator. And so the next time around that they do something well, I'm like, oh my God, you're the best. You did amazing. Like, how do you feel about this? Like, you're so focused on this negative thing, but man, you absolutely crushed it. And here's why I say you're crushing it. Here's what I'm seeing. And then they either respond or they don't. And that's the praise thing, right? And then sometimes, like when it comes to competition, here's a trick for every kid listening. I want you guys to write this shit down. The key to competition is to beat the person that doesn't know that they're that they're competing with you. So when I think about lists, right? Like I think about the rankings. I'll give a great example. Rankings in school for high school, right? Like apparently a pretty big deal when it comes to getting into colleges, right?
Yeah.
And you know what? So my daughter's school is top 10% is about 35 kids. So there's a big difference between number 36 and number 35, right? And my daughter Aubrey's a really smart girl, and she's in the 20s now. And all I told her, and she was in the 30s as first semester freshman year, right? And all I told her was,
and be clear, that probably means she still makes incredibly great grades.
Unbelievable. She's all straight A's. She's 4 point something.
Yes.
4.4, 4.6. I don't know.
I think that the highest average at Reagan was like 136 or something.
It doesn't make sense, but yes. So here's the point. So Aubrey was all bent out of shape when I was talking to her, 6 months ago, and I said, look, because she was talking about the difference between her and first place. I said, your job's not to be first. Your job is to beat the person in front of you. Like, don't be 36 next time. Be 33. Like, who are those three people? And she found out. I said, sit next to him in class.
Copy all their work.
No, that's horrible advice. And no, not at all.
Just kidding.
I said, sit next to them in class, ask them lots of questions, find out what they're doing, and beat them. And they don't even know that you're trying to beat them. Like, to me, that's how you climb, like really competitive people. So you probably remember back at the old office when I had the face of my competitor as literally a dartboard. And this guy, I was like number in the core, which is a coaching program for lenders and realtors. I was probably ranked number like 150, and this guy was number 1. And he had no idea that I have a picture of his face with a dartboard, and I'd throw darts with him making prospecting calls. I was like, I'm going to beat this guy one day. His name was Doug. Awesome guy. Still friends with him this day. He's actually out of Dallas. Doug Bateman's his name. And 15 years ago, I throw darts at his face while I'd make calls.
That doesn't even ring a bell to me.
I think it was right before you joined me, actually. It's 15 years ago. Yeah, 15, 16 years ago.
So there's been multiple dartboards, to be clear.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I mean, we did that in the book of lists for Business Journal. I had Jamie's face for a while there, but that was right when you started, I think. Jamie Spanley was beating me back.
I remember in
13 years ago, 14 years ago.
The old,
So my point is, like, I think that's a really great, going back to the motivators, it is pressure, praise, or competition. So if you start paying attention to what gets you off your ass to go do it, and you harness that and you tell a coach, hey, this is what works for me, you're going to get better results, right? The whole point of this conversation is how to retain more too. It's like, it's not just about, improving your knowledge, your gap diminishing your knowledge yet, but also retaining whatever you're going to do. It's really a big key there is like when you approach a coach or mentor, give them the tools. Don't make them guess how to make it, what to get the most out of you. Like I for sure change. And by the way, that's normal. People change. I was competition for years and years and years. And right now it's pressure. Like I don't need to be told I'm good. I know I'm pretty damn good at this job. Like, and that's not a conceited thing. I don't need to be told another time that I'm pretty good at my job. Like I'm good coaching. I'm good. I can get better. I'm very clear about that.
Absolutely.
But that's not what motivates me. Right now, it's being told I'm not good enough. Right now, it's being told by my coach that I'm underperforming what my potential is. Right now, it's my coach literally said one time last year, "You're embarrassing yourself and you're embarrassing me." And that some people would say that's horrible. Why would a coach ever say that? It's like, because I'm chasing the top 1%. I'm not trying to be the 50th. Like I'm a 1%er in my industry. Like that's what I want. And so to get there, it's like, you know what? Fuck you, Rick. I'm going to go prove you wrong. And I did. Right.
Yeah.
And then, months later, he said, "Hey, just so you know, I was just trying to push a button," because he's a masterful coach. He's a masterful. He got the best out of me.
Yep.
And then he knew when to go flip the switch the other way and say, "Hey, bud, you did it. You crushed it. You exceeded my expectations," right? They've got a voicemail that I saved from the end of the year I could play. Probably the best voicemail I've ever gotten from a coach.
I have a voicemail from Rick that I really wish I still had. I saved it for sure, but through phone, new phones and all of that, I lost it. Yeah. But yeah, just
when he tells you that you suck, you feel it. And when he tells you you're the best in the world, he means it, right? So my point then is like seeking out that coach, which is different than a mentor, right? Like you're giving somebody permission to give you homework, to hold you accountable, and your job. Like what I love is that this is that 3Ds thing we've talked about before in probably season 1. There's a difference between drifting, being driven, and directed, right? And this is a good reminder if you're just tuning in for the first time. The 3Ds that people experience are, some people are super driven. Like, I want to be a straight A student. I don't know where Aubrey got from. I was an AB student. I was definitely sometimes a C student, right?
Yeah.
I think I graduated high school in like the top third, maybe. In college, I finished like at 3.3. So I was definitely above average, but not excellent at all. So somehow she was driven enough.
Really like weirds me out.
It was boring for me.
I know
that was the problem for me.
I know, but what I find interesting is that even though it was boring, that you couldn't do it like with your eyes closed, standing on your head.
So you want to know what the difference was? Is I didn't do homework, I didn't do assignments ever, and I aced every test.
And
so I would get dock points all the time because I would. Because
some of it wasn't turned in.
I didn't need to do the homework to fucking understand it. Like if I listen to somebody talk about one time, or if I read a book one time, like I get it.
Yeah. And
so I would ace every test, it seemed like, but that would be half the test grades, and then half it would be like homework being turned in with your name on it.
Yeah.
It's like, dude, I got all the questions right. It's me. Like, why do you need my name on it? And there's 10 points, right. But my going back to this, the 3Ds. So driven works to a point, and just remember, drive always comes at a cost. Mm-hmm. That's the one thing that people need to understand is drive worked for me. That was enough. By the way, the drive typically comes from a chip on the shoulder. Like Aubrey's a pleaser, just a great example. So she's got amazing qualities. That's one that is okay, but it's not great. And I know this because I remember watching her play sports when she was a third grader. If she scored something, she would always look at the sideline to look at my wife and I to see if we were watching, right? Like she wanted to make sure we were happy, which is something probably bad parenting I did years ago, right? I'm sure. But
it's good to give them content for their therapy sessions when they're older.
Absolutely. Right. But the idea then, guys, is that she's whatever chip she got, she's got the drive and she's excelling in it. And it doesn't require any work from any outside source, right? So that's going to work right up until when? I don't know. Maybe until she gets into college. Maybe it's when she graduates college. Whatever it is, it'll work till it doesn't. And the drive will come at a cost. For example, one of the side products of drive and that cost is that nothing's ever good enough. Like you focus on what you didn't achieve, or the team you don't make, or as opposed to all the great games. So it's not ever good enough
it doesn't feel as good as you thought it would feel when you get there.
Yeah, and that's a long road to hoe.
All that work and this is... Yeah. So you just keep like, well, maybe it's this next step up.
What's funny is, I mean, going back to that example of like 30s versus 20s, you know, Aubrey improved by 7 spots from first to second semester, right? By the way, not my goal for her. This is a goal for herself. And I was super excited. I heard because I knew she was working on that. So I told her on our vacation in Colorado, I was like, hey babe, congratulations. You moved up from this ranking. And she shut down for like an hour. Why? Because she thought she would have moved more with all the hard work she'd put in, right?
Okay.
I mean, we were talking about 0.01 differences between rankings, right? And I'm so proud of her, so proud of her, of the work she put in. But that drive, the cost is, it just to her wasn't good enough. Not to me. She is way better than good enough. But to her, it wasn't good enough, right? So when you leave the driving, then what most people do is they start to drift, right? And the drifting, as a reminder, feels like, I'm going through the motions.
It's like the movie Office Space.
Yo, dude. If you haven't watched the movie Office Space, the first half of that movie. But bottom line, it's the feeling of I go through the motions. I hate my job. I hate my life. I'm a boat in the middle of the ocean being tossed with whatever. Like you don't wake up to do what you want to do. You wake up doing whatever is needed by everybody else. Yeah. That feeling is really sucky.
I don't know that it has to be like hating your job or hating things.
There's no satisfaction though. It's an empty feeling. That's the worst part about it. You're existing. Yeah, existing. You're existing. You're not thriving.
Not thriving.
Existing.
Surviving, not thriving.
Yeah, very much so. And you look at it's the proverbial rat race. Like it's people just doing the same thing over and over on a hamster wheel because they're stuck. Right. And stuck isn't necessarily a bad thing, but they're not fulfilled. Right. Right. And so the only way out of being driven is to go back to, out of drifting, is to go back to being driven, which usually requires a chip on your shoulder. Like you have a big fall and you're like, holy shit, I can't believe I did that. I need to go win again. Or more importantly, what I found for long-term success is being directed. The third D is being directed. So the direction piece is, I need a coach in all areas of my life always. There's a reason why I have a therapist. There's a reason why I have a physical trainer. There's a reason why I've got a business coach. There's a reason why I've got outside mentors. I have to have bosses saying, you do good or you're doing poorly. You're doing well, you're doing poorly. Yeah. Not you're bad, you're a bad person. It's like you're doing poorly or you're doing well. Like where are you? And tell me what to do to get better. And so I think that's really, 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 really important. Another big piece here, and it's something that you actually brought up before our podcast, is this whole concept of, okay, great, now I've agreed I'm going to read a book a quarter. Now what? And you even brought up, hey, I listen to Audible, but sometimes I listen to 2 chapters. I don't know what the hell was just said, right? Yeah. I mean, there's some truth behind that.
But now that I know it's okay, because it's subliminal.
Well, it's hey, listen, action is better than non-action, right? The habit of listening all the time is better than just not listening. So
first step, turn on the Audible.
Turn it on.
Step 2, listen.
Yeah, step 2, listen. I would say that there's some secrets here as well. Like I probably learned this in high school or middle school when I aced every test, right? That I would take, and I would suck at the homework. I think really there's a book called The One Thing. It's actually a Gary Keller book in Keller Williams' old book, probably 20 years old. But the one thing, the idea behind it is, I think, the most important thing for my reading, right? Like I've got 1,000 books on my bookshelf in the office. I could not recite every page of every book. I could for sure tell you the most important thing that I learned out of that book. Yeah. And so you can drop a name. If I've read, I'll say, the most important thing in that book is this. And so what I'm looking for in a book is, hey, what's one thing for sure that I'm going to remember or learn from this? Like if I'm going to waste 8 hours and retain nothing, you're right, it's a waste. But if I'm going to take 8 hours to listen to an Audible or 12 hours to read a book, I need to get something out of it. What's that one thing? And guys, there's as much to learn about what not to do as there is to do, right? By the way, if you're reading a murder mystery, please don't take notes on how to murder somebody, right?
You take notes on how to not get caught.
Well, no, I'm the opposite. So I'm a guy and women are fucking crazy. So I take notes on how to like notice when something tastes different. It's poison. Your wife is poisoning you, right? So my wife loves true crime. And it scares me. Like she can't pay attention to a news channel or to a sporting game. But you put true crime. She's like leaning in, taking notes, talking to her friends about it. It's like, what are we doing here? Like, Hey, in my will, the first thing it says is, if Chrissy hasn't been investigated, investigate her first, then give her the money.
They always start with the spouses anyway.
Yep. But the one thing is a big thing. Having you're a really great note taker. What's really unique about Brynn is she's really good for her organizational skills. Everything goes into these damn notebooks. But what she's good at, she can go back and find it she'll remember it was in this color notebook in this month, and I can go back and find it. Not everyone can do that. Like
top right of the page.
Right. So finding some sort of organization in your thoughts. So like, for example, one thing I wish I had done in the first couple of years of coaching, which I started doing about 3 years ago, is all my coaching notes for my coaching sessions are in one book, right? There's new technology that works. What's that thing that everyone likes that I just got for Christmas? Cass is setting up for me right now.
The thing you're going to give to me if you don't use in by the time we record a next podcast.
Done. Okay, good. I mean, I might as well use what's it called though? Remarkable. So Remarkable is a think of like an iPad, but it's a way to take notes and then turn it to a PDF and print it off and organize your thoughts.
Paper feeling lifelike note taking technology.
So there's ways to do it. Post-it notes don't work. And one thing that you got to look at your life when you're trying to organize your knowledge and your thoughts is 2 or 3 things. Like these are like next level things that one of the reasons why we're doing a podcast is because I've got so much damn useless knowledge in my head that I never committed to writing.
Right.
That we started doing a podcast to create a medium by which I can get shit out of my head.
Get it out, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So that's what I mean by it is, look, if you're going to keep learning over a lifetime, you're going to forget a lot of great stuff.
Oh my gosh.
You're going to have to relearn it. Like when did I stop? I remember I learned that years ago.
All you have to do to figure out how many things you've forgotten is move. Like when we moved offices and we had to go through our drawers and look at all the notes. I mean, I'm like like when the people say I have forgotten more than you've learned, it's like
real.
That it's so real.
Well, people that are always trying to learn and grow, they for sure forget it too. So what I was going to say there, it would be an index. Like if I could go back and do it all over again as a 20-year-old and I was trying to organize my thoughts, I would, especially with something like a Remarkable where you can literally write a page and then put it in a table of contents.
Yeah.
I would literally create an index day one. These are all things about sales. These are all things about money. These are all things about relationships. These are all things about communication. These are all things about whatever. Mm-hmm. These are all the PowerPoints that I've taught over the years. Here's all the topics that we talked about in podcasts, but like in an index format.
Yeah.
So that when you want to go back and reference, you can be like, I want to go back and teach something on sales. You can go to a sales index and then you can read through the highlights and figure out what you want to talk about. So I like the idea of taking notes in a seminar. I like the idea of taking notes in a lunch and learn. I like the idea of taking notes in a book. And most of the time it's going to be lost in the world forever, right? Mm-hmm. Now there is a reason why taking notes is helpful because we learn 3 ways, right? We learn, usually by listening, by seeing, and by doing. And so if you can listen to the Audible, write it down,
and write a note or two,
write it down. It kind of solidifies that thought process. I would add a last piece to the puzzle that for me is what does it. You know this about me. When I learn something that I want to like remember forever,
talk about it.
I teach it for like a month.
Yeah.
The same thing over and over and over and over and over and over.
It is. It's usually about a month. It's about a month because we usually teach it. What I have noticed is, on average, it'll be taught 5 times that month over the next month.
That's funny. That's what you're probably part of.
That's what I'm part of.
Yeah, that's like you'll be in the same, my lunch and learn, my coaching, my branch meeting, right? Uh-huh. So Brynn will hear it. I will literally do that with 4 different core calls.
Yeah.
I'll do it with my coaching within the company for our loan officers. I'll do it for our 5 different realtor meetings. I do it with my 4 or 5 recurring lunches with our agents that I do. And then I'll probably do it once or twice with people that I coach that aren't even in our industry, mm-hmm. right? And so, I literally think I'm coaching the same subject 25 times.
Yeah.
But then why do I have recall? Like people are like, oh my God, you have recall of something you taught like 8 years ago. Like bullet point 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's because I fucking taught it over and over and over.
The reason I have recall is because I hear it 5 times. Any topic I hear 5 times. Like,
So when you hear about like people that go back and reread a book, it's part of, they want to ingrain that on their memory bank forever, right? And so what I would argue is that when you're reading through a self-help book, or whether it's what to do or what not to do, either way, and you really want to learn it, you got to write it down, you got to repeat it. You don't have to be teaching it to a class. What I'm saying is, you call up your friend, because remember, show me your friends, I'll show you your future. So in theory, you're talking to people that want to grow too, and be like, hey, Bob, I learned this really cool thing from this book today. I read this thing from the book. This is what it was about. Here's what I'm going to do moving forward. Would you do me a favor, Bob? In 30 days, if you can remember, will you ask me about that? See how I'm doing with it? And then, hey, Johnny, guess what I read in this book today? Like, it's kind of crazy. Never thought of it this way, but this really impacted me today. And that's, adding value to relationships that, you think about people that you talk to, and God, I'm getting fired up about this subject.
I know.
I don't know why I'm so fired up. I think you're
pretty much,
I'm fired up about the subject.
But you're still on track, because we're, our bullet points were, are you learning?
And how do you retain it?
And then, retention, and then implementation. And so all of these
this all falls into it. But I think it's just so obvious that people suck at this. Like, and more importantly, the people that are great at learning, growing, and retaining, it stands out. Like, all of us have had a conversation with a super interesting person that is an expert in their field or knows a little bit about a lot. And there's a few people that are both good at both, right? And they just stand out. So when you think about like who's that kid up in Dallas that you're super attracted to from not sexually, but like super attracted to as far as like he's got millions of followers. You're just trying to learn from him on shorts. He was teaching about shorts.
Oh, yeah.
What's his name?
Chase Bradshaw.
Chase Bradshaw. How old's this kid?
26.
26.
Maybe?
How many followers does he have?
2.something million.
2.something million followers. Is 26-year-old. Is there something to learn from him, Brynn?
Yeah.
Cool. How many calls have you had with him?
Several text messages, but it started with a 2-hour sit down.
Cool. So I want you guys to listen to this. Brynn is not 26, although you're like 27.
Right.
Right.
I mean, I look 26.
She's not 26, but she identified somebody that was a subject matter expert in her opinion, and she sought out, a sit down, because why? Successful people are willing to do that.
Yeah.
And there was enough value and follow-up added that he was willing to have multiple conversations after the fact, right? And so it's just interesting when you find somebody that's a subject matter expert or knows a little bit about a lot of things, they stand out. They absolutely stand out. And so how people do that, it's not because they stopped learning. They are always improving their craft. They're always sharing their craft. They're part of the teaching it is to make sure it's solidifying in their mind forever. And so writing one thing down, calling one or two friends about it. And this goes back to why book clubs work, for periods of time. Like there's probably 6 or 7 people from that book club that we started, 8-9 years ago?
Yes.
We still share books with each other. I got one from Chris Hockert and Brenda. Both have sent me book recommendations in the last 60 days.
Well,
from a book club
like
from
last time we saw Denise Brown, she gave us
both gave us a book.
Stacks
of her favorite books from the year.
Yes, I know, which is just so sweet, honestly.
But yeah, so I think that's all very valuable stuff. At the end of the day, if you're drifting and you're bored with your business or you're bored with your life or you just find yourself to be sedentary in whatever it is we're talking about, the first thing is if you say you're going to fix it, we already talked about it, actually follow through with a step. Follow through that. Be a better reader. That doesn't work. Read a book.
But I think even before that, spending time to find what topics you really like. I do think it's worth, having one pleasurable book and then one self-help book. If you can bounce back and forth between books. But if you're a new reader or this is something you really, really want to work on, and not even just
make
reading,
sure you like
remember your consumption is do some research on, what topics are out there. And
which is literally just asking your friends that do read, hey, what do you,
but also oh my gosh, once you get on your podcast apps, like all these suggestions are going to pop up too. So that's a great place. Same with YouTube. I mean, you put in one thing and then, you get all sorts of others like that. So do some research there, fill up your queue, like make a list, like them. So that way they'll be there for you
Yep. And one thing that Brynn said is super important, so I don't want her to have just skipped over it because it's exactly what I do. You can only do self-help stuff for so long.
Right.
There were certainly years that's all I read. And then I stopped for a while, and I didn't understand why I stopped for a while.
Yeah.
It's because it became part of the job, like you've brought up. It wasn't like I enjoyed it as much anymore. And so what I literally do is I alternate. Right for this year, I'm alternating every other book. It's something self-help wise I'm going to do something with that's about a topic that I'm interested in business or personal, and then I'll go read. I don't read garbage books, but it'll be a fictional book about a period of time.
You like history books.
Yeah,
right?
I like lots of fictional books about World War II or Vietnam. I like war books, but with fictional people, but with real events. Just because I can learn a little bit about real events, but I like to have what I mean by that is if you think about the movie Titanic, what I really loved about that movie is not the
love, not the love.
It's not the love story at all. What I loved was the factual history about the clock, the factual history about the boat makers, the factual history about the people on board, the number of ships, what happened,
order of people
how
getting
the
off
boat broke, literally, I learned a little bit. We're referencing a movie from 20 years ago.
Yeah.
But there's a cool story to keep you interested in. But I learned a lot from that book. I
think TV shows are the same way. You can
the whatever ones. Yellowstone's a great example.
Right.
1883
you can see the
or whatever
nuts
it is.
and bolts of that's not just story writing.
Yep.
These are
historical fiction's what it's called. And I think that's a great thing if you're interested in a piece. God, there's a Devil in the White City, I think is one of my first ones I went back to. Devil in the White City is a murder mystery, but about a true murder back in the 1903 Chicago World Fair. So you're talking literally the World Fair at the time was painted the city that they painted was literally everything was white. But you're talking about the first Ferris wheel. Like the first Ferris wheel in the United States was at the 1903 one, and there was literally a doctor that he had a apartment complex that he was renting out, or he had a motel, whatever it was, multiple rooms, and he had these accesses behind fake walls to get into the different rooms and murder people in different rooms. And so you've got this historical fiction going on. It's like, oh my God, but I'm learning about really cool shit at the same time. It's like, I didn't know that about Ferris, and I didn't know, so anyways, I alternate between I want to work on leadership, and then I'm gonna do this. I want to work on sales. I'm gonna work on negotiation. I'm working on time management. I'm work on mindset. I'm gonna work on. By the way, here's my top book themes. Would be mindset, leadership, sales, organization, time management, health, spirituality.
So the Wheel of Life, essentially.
I guess it's become
money,
that. I guess it's become that. Certainly, most of it will fall into the how do you create more time management stuff. A lot of that mindset for sure. Like how do you stay on task for extended periods of time and get more done in a day than most people get done in a week.
Yeah.
Influence for sure. Sales and negotiation for sure. And then a lot of books about goals. Whole lot of books about goals, goal setting. Anyways, I would argue that probably this podcast, if you go back and look at the last couple of years of it, the content upwards of, because I can't give a real percentage, I would honestly say that more than 50% of the content that we've given has come from books that we've learned and implemented in our business as opposed to experience. And yes, we've experienced it, but it's the origination.
The origination
was from a book or from a coach.
Yes.
And then we experience it and then we're teaching it, right? So that it goes back to why it'll stay with us forever. It's like, you got to learn it, you got to execute it. And so learn it, do it, teach it is my belief in mastery of any skill set.
Yeah.
If you want to write that one down, everybody, you learn it first, then you've got to execute it and actually do it, which is the experience piece. And then teach it third.
Yeah, and learn how to teach it.
Yep. If you can teach somebody to do it as well or better than you've mastered the subject. And so I don't have any other thoughts. What are your final thoughts, Brynn?
So, I mean, I think I mean, this was fun. I mean, it was, we talked about how to
God,
start.
this was fun.
We talked about how to start reading or consuming information. We talked about where to consume that information, how to break that down, and if you're going from zero consumption of knowledge, how to break down a goal.
Yep.
So 3 pages a day as an example, where you can input reading or consuming information, example, while you're doing laundry or cleaning up after something. Are you learning? So telling others and sharing your finds, right? This great podcast, this great book, tell somebody about it, share it with them. Implementing immediately, I think, is a huge piece. So I know one thing Cannon was talking about was his goal is to implement immediately something that he learned from the book before he starts another one.
Love that.
That's great.
Great idea.
And then how to balance it, because you don't want your reading to then become not fun or enjoyable anymore because you've made it too much of one subject. So find some fun books that you like. For me, it's biographies, autobiographies, of celebrities specifically. I just love hearing their inner stories. So yeah, I mean, I think that's...
I'll give some homework to everybody. So my final thoughts are: pick something that you want to learn about and make that be your first subject, the first book that you want to read. Like something that interests you. Like I said, for me right now, I want to learn about something different. I want to learn how to fly a helicopter. I just want to learn something new. So if you've been thinking I want to learn a different language, maybe that's something. If you want, maybe it's
or how to. I mean, a big one would be how to build social media accounts. I mean,
I don't care what it is. Yeah, it's find something that you're interested in.
So many podcasts, many,
and find a medium that you're going to start learning from, and say, I'm going to see this through. Pick a period of time and a quantity per day, something that's measurable. And then meaning I'm going to read a book in 30 days. I'm going to read 3 pages a day or whatever. And then I would absolutely, the last piece of the puzzle, which people suck at because they're so afraid of failure, is they need to share that goal with somebody else that gives a shit. And so that's the accountability piece. Maybe you can challenge a friend or ask a friend if they want to do it with you. Hey,
or you can email us. Well, we give a shit.
Literally just ask a friend, say, hey, look, man, I'm thinking about reading about this. Are you interested in reading about this too? Maybe we can talk about this in 30 days. I'm interested in learning about this. Would you like to videotape with me and we'll try this out for social media? I don't care what it is, but it's about moving the needle. What I've found is that if I can feed my knowledge bank just a little bit every single day, 5-15 minutes a day, the rest of the day is actually a good day. I don't have to be doing that one thing all day long to have a great day. But if I'm moving the needle and getting a little better at something every single day, those little bite-sized pieces add up and really pay dividends long term. So,
and I have said the way I organize my consumption is during business hours is if I'm in the car and I'm not returning phone calls, then it's a podcast or YouTube or an Audible. And then outside of business hours, well, I bump my jams.
Well, subscribe, share, join us on Short Sense.
Yes, absolutely.
Email us. We'd love some titles. Something you want us to talk about specifically?
Yes. Yeah. If you have anything that you want us to chat on, then yes, send those over. Other than that, thank you so much for listening. Yeah. Cheers.
Bye, guys.